through this today, socially distanced and all. Call to order at 7:33 on October 8th. And we will do a roll call.
Bevins.
Here.
Erickson.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Kirsch.
Here.
Mink.
Present.
O'Day.
Here.
Center.
Here. Move forward to approval and amendment of agenda.
So moved, Johnson.
Second, Erickson.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Mr. Chair, I do believe that we have to do roll call for each vote because we do have somebody joining us virtually.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bevins.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Kirsch.
Yes.
Mink.
Present, yes.
O'Day.
Yeah.
And Center.
Yes. Review and approval of minutes from August 6th, 2020 and September 17th, 2020.
Move approval, Johnson.
Second, Erickson.
Roll call vote.
Bevins.
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Kirsch.
Yes.
Mink.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
And Center.
Yes. And a welcome to Marie Kirsch.
Yay. Hi there.
Welcome.
Yeah, do you want me to say just a few?
Tell us a little bit about who
Yeah.
you are.
I guess I'm a relatively recent transplant to the area. I moved here 2014. Spent a lot of time in the area. My mom's family is from Nisswa, and my grandparents owned Minnewawa Lodge up there for many years. So I feel like more of a native to the area than maybe it would seem. But yeah, moved back in 2014 with plans to open a business here, and was able last October to make that happen. I own Naughty Pine Bakery in downtown. I also knew Yvette Campbell from the Destination Downtown Brainerd Coalition, which is kind of a grassroots organization we started with some downtown business owners. Brenda's here to tell us a little bit more about it, but I'm involved in that, bringing more activities and events to downtown Brainerd. And yeah, I knew Yvette was on this commission, and just was interested in getting more involved in city government. So I'm really excited for the opportunity to be here, and it's going to be a learning process for me, but hopefully I can bring something to the table, and like I said, I'll just kind of learn as I go.
Excellent. Welcome and congrats on your opening of your new bakery.
Thanks.
Excited to have that downtown as well.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Other than say thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Recruit a friend. I think we need a couple more. Move to election of vice president. Would you like to lead that, David?
Yep, thank you, Mr. President. So with the resignation of Yvette Campbell on August 6th, the vice president position became vacant. Marie has been appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council to fulfill Yvette's term, which expires in 2021. With that position now vacant, the EDA kind of decides what you want to do. Per the EDA bylaws, the new officers for 2021 will be elected at your first meeting in 2021, which will likely be January or February. So options kind of are either appoint someone for the rest of the year, go without one, and wait until 2021. It's all up to the EDA what you would like to do to fill or to do with the vice president position.
Any discussion? Comment?
Mr. President, I would like to fill that position today, and then we can elect again in 2021.
My name is Brenda Billman Art. I am the owner of Purple Fern Bath Company in downtown Brainerd. I'm the president of the Destination Downtown Brainerd Coalition, aka the DDBC. What you're being handed out right now is something that we had put together to reach out to downtown business owners about happenings we have going on, what we're working on, initiatives, and future projects. Basically, the Destination Downtown Brainerd Coalition is a grassroots organization. We've been meeting for about 2 years. It's a group of business owners, and like-minded individuals to work on making downtown community stronger. We really feel like when our downtown thrives, the community thrives, and we grow stronger. We have done a lot over the last year and a half, a lot, and it's all volunteer. So that's kind of a big thing. It's all volunteer of business owners and other organizations. Some of the things that we've been working on are the Spooktacular event you might be familiar with. Last year we had about 1,000 kids come downtown to go trick-or-treating. This year we're just getting that event going. It's looking a little bit different due to COVID, but we're making it a whole week-long event to hope to bring people downtown and explore our community. We have worked on Small Business Saturday events. Last year we brought Santa into downtown. We put together an elves workshop, complete with like face painting, cookie decorating. It was letters to Santa. It was a lot of fun. We did horse and carriage rides. Again, this will probably look a little bit different this year, but we'll be working on that. We also have done, last year we did our first window walk event. I don't know how many of you got to walk around downtown last year, but it was really great to see all the downtown businesses, windows decorated and open, and it made the front page of the newspaper, which was really, really exciting, and we'll be doing that again this year. And that's one's very COVID friendly, so that's kind of exciting. You know, and also part of what we're doing besides events is we want to make the businesses stronger downtown. Prior to everything happening this year, we put together our first BOSS event, which is a business owner social. We brought business owners together that were in the downtown community to get to know each other. One thing I came to find out when I moved my business in downtown, that nobody talks to each other and nobody knew each other. And so trying to create business owner communication and community, I think, is really important. If we're working together, we're going to be a stronger community as a whole. On the sheet that I handed out to you, you can see that we have a mission and a vision statement. Some of the initiatives we've been working on. The flower baskets downtown, we worked with the city on that to make that a priority, and got so many good feedback. They were absolutely beautiful, so thank you. If you've noticed the banners that are hanging downtown right now, we worked with the city again, the HRA, to get funding for it and get those up and going. They look awesome. We're currently in the design process for holiday banners, which will be really nice. We're working on a website, downtownbrainerd.org. We have a fantastic video that's up on there that's showcasing downtown businesses. Take a look at it. It's really great. And that website is going to be expanded, so it's showcasing all of the businesses, events that we have going on about the community. But it's just taking a little bit of time. In the future, we're put ahead our first meeting, put together the farmers market for next summer. We'd like to bring that back to downtown. We'd also like to work on summer Sundays so we can have businesses open on Sundays and have activities happening on the weekends. First Friday events, kind of like the window walk, that's the first Friday in December, having activities set up to help bring people downtown for those. You know, and again, I just want to reiterate, when we are doing all these things for the downtown community, it's making the businesses stronger, it's pulling the community in that's here, and it's making it a hub for Brainerd, which is pretty exciting. And lastly, I just want to talk about the education aspect of our organization as well. We worked with Sandy Voigt with the Entrepreneur Fund, the Beach Strategic Program. We were able to bring that to downtown business owners this last spring. It was a 6-week program to help strengthen your business and grow your business, which was invaluable. It was great, and again, that created that connection with the business owners in downtown. That was a lot. And I think that's about it. Like I said, there's a lot of information on here. If I've missed anything, my fault. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you did.
Okay, good. Well, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, but I really just want to say we'd like to be a partner with you. And in the future, if there's funding opportunities to help support our organizations and our initiatives, it would be really appreciated if you could think of us. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda.
Any questions? before we let her go?
Yeah. One question, one comment. I love the idea of downtown being open on Sundays.
Yeah.
I think as far as, not so much for local traffic, but tourist traffic. My family likes going up to the North Shore, and we always stop in Duluth on the way home on Sunday and spend $100. Why can't downtown Brainerd have a similar success? I don't know. I don't know if $100 is successful. But you're asking if there are funding opportunities. Our annual budget's like $133,000. So there's an opportunity, there's 133,000 opportunities. What types of specific asks do you have, or what do you want the EDA to come in and help your organization accomplish?
Good question. We have, anywhere from, helping provide educational opportunities for business owners to helping support the events. Right now with the events, it's all donations. It's all like going around asking for donations. They cost money to put on. Ultimately, we'd like to be able to hire somebody to help support social media marketing, event coordination. I know when it comes to the farmers market next spring, we're gonna need a lot of help with that. And that's gonna be a big draw for downtown Brainerd and Brainerd in general.
Thank you.
Have you worked much with Bladek on some of your initiatives?
We haven't worked with Bladek a whole lot, no.
I would encourage that as well,
Thank you.
as well as the chamber.
Yes, we work with the chamber very closely.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Next on the agenda is a presentation of the financial report.
There was a financial report included in your packet. You will notice that we had the $113,500 in business loans that went out in May, as well as the income coming in. The city is planning on reimbursing itself for those loans through the CARES funds that we received. And so therefore, we will transfer that revenue back to the state MIF funds as well. That's where the money came in from. Yes, Mr.
Local
Chair?
Economic Development Funds?
What was that?
The Local Economic Development Fund?
It came out of the state MIF funds, did it?
State MIF funds were eliminated 3-4 years ago.
So they would, yes, I'm sorry, you were correct, the local economic, because when we transferred, that was the 85% of the state MIF funds that went to the local economic development fund, that's what we used, so yes, that will be being transferred back, thank you, Gabe. Otherwise, there's really nothing to report.
Do we need to approve it?
I would, yes, I think that would be a motion to approve the financial
Can I
report
get
that
a
was
motion
submitted.
to approve the financials? as
Motion to approve the financial report?
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? I guess we gotta do a roll call.
Bevins,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Hirsch,
Yes.
Mink,
Yes.
O'Day,
Yes.
Sitter.
Yes. Okay, moving on to updates from Executive Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Just a couple of updates. Not going to steal Tyler's thunder because I'm sure he's going to talk about the CARES Act funds. But just to touch on it a little bit, the county allocated $3 million to small businesses, and the city contributed $300,000 of their CARES Act funds for small business grants. And then the county also allocated $1 million for nonprofits, and the city of Brainerd contributed $100,000 to those nonprofits as well. And I'm guessing that Tyler will provide you an update, so that's all I'll say about that part of the CARES Act funds. The other thing I did want to mention was, as you remember, with our economic development funds back in the spring, we used $113,000 of it, as Connie just mentioned, for small business relief grants. In addition, we allocated $25,000 to marketing. We have heard, at least anecdotally, that marketing effort did make a difference. Visit Brainerd kind of mentioned that they had a few people coming through that didn't really realize how much was in downtown Brainerd. So one of the things that the council did is that they allocated an additional $25,000 to marketing efforts. In the summer, we had an intern, so we used Jesse Ernster as our intern to help with our marketing program. As you know, you saw a bunch of that in the EDA meetings. This time, we have asked Visit Brainerd to do that marketing on our behalf. So we're actually meeting with Mary Devine Johnson this morning to kind of go through some of that and what that's going to look like here in the next month and a half. Another couple of things, the Children's Museum Task Force continues to meet. We have a meeting next week. Our last meeting, we really started looking at Lum Park and talking specifically about Lum Park and talking about a master plan. As you know, the City Council and the Region 5 Children's Museum entered into a joint contract and hired Widseth to do a master plan for Lum Park. Our last meeting really focused on the amenities of Lum Park and then the discussion of where a children's museum could be located within Lum Park. Couple of other things I'll just mention briefly. The Parks Department, or the Park Board, has done an RFP to look at outsourcing their recreation programs, and they met on Tuesday night. And the other thing that's being discussed is looking at a potential interim public works department. And so at the park board meeting on Tuesday night, the park board did make a motion requesting that the council consider a public works or an interim public works department. As you may know, Tony Saylor, our parks director, has put in his resignation. He is retiring. His last day here will be December 18th, and so the request of the park board was to ask the council if they would be interested in doing some kind of interim public works department starting December 19th. And then last, David and I were talking, we had intended on trying to do a work session between the EDA and the council, and we had kind of tentatively slated that for April. And then COVID hit. And I think that kind of messed with a bunch of people's plans. David and I were talking that, and I know we have another meeting coming up in November, so I just wanted to tease this a little bit, that maybe in January, we want to take a look at doing some kind of a work session between the council and the EDA to see if we can just have some discussion about what the council would like to see the EDA doing and what the EDA would like to be doing in regards to economic development. So with that, I don't know, David, did I miss anything? All right. Happy to take any questions if you have them.
Since you brought up the Children's Museum?
Yes.
And that task force?
Yes.
Yvette Campbell was also sitting on that task force, and I've been trying to attend those meetings as they come up, and I think I had to leave halfway through the last one, and I can't make the next one. And I suggested to Peter Olson that I would ask if anybody else is interested in attending and being on that task force from our board. If not, I will, hit it when I can. But if somebody's interested, I think it's a great opportunity for somebody to get more involved.
And Mr. Chair, maybe I could just say what the time commitment we think is going to be. The task force has been meeting 2 hours every month. So our next meeting is a week from today. We meet at the fire department training room. I would anticipate for sure a meeting in November and December. I'm not sure if it would really go much past that. So I think the time commitment is relatively limited.
Right.
I know everybody's busy, so I just wanted to let you know that that would be the time commitment.
Generally, Mr. President, they meet from roughly 3 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Thank you.
So if anyone is interested, raise your hand. Speak up. All right, I guess not, so.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Is this something that the board feels comfortable with? I would put my hat in that, or put my name in. I mean, is it something that the board is comfortable with me attending the meetings on behalf of the EDA and reporting back? It's an important piece for our community, certainly, and as obviously as an agent that is funded by this organization. I'm just asking the question, if there isn't a volunteer.
Can't hear Tyler.
Sorry, Councilman Bevins. The question that I'm asking is that would the EDA board feel, would it be appropriate for me to volunteer to attend these meetings on behalf of the EDA? I'm just asking the question. I'm wondering, just because nobody's volunteered, I've been involved, obviously, with the city since this came up, so just asking the question. Or if there's a conflict there.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Jerry. I don't think it's a priority for you to spend your time at those meetings, because the economic development aspect of what's going on around the Children's Museum doesn't really take place till after the Children's Museum is built. When they're haggling on where it goes and how many parking stalls they build and all that, not really a priority of the EDAs, in my opinion.
Fair enough. That's what I was looking for, just questioning if there needs to be representation.
Any other comments?
Well, Mr. President, I think someone should from our EDA be there. And I know if your time is limited, I mean, I would be glad to fill in with you or for you during that time. I think that's
Okay.
pretty important to have that. So, I mean, I would be willing to attend.
I think it's a
Okay.
good idea.
Yeah.
It's Wayne's ward at the time. He's running for that ward. I think that's, I didn't want to suggest it, but I think that's a great idea.
As long as I get the emails when the meetings, I'd be glad to report back to the EDA what's happening.
Okay.
Wayne, I will make sure that I forward you the invite. I'll do that right now.
But you're gonna try to make it too, right?
I will make it when I can,
Okay.
but, you know, it seems like every time he schedules a meeting, I'm out of town. My vacation and hunting schedule kind of full. And it's not full enough, so. All right, so I don't know that we need any motion on that. We'll just do that as a fill-in kind of role and move forward. Thank you. HRA update next from Schomer.
Morning, Chairman, Senator, members of the commission. I guess the most exciting news we have is we have Eric Charpentier as our new executive director. Very, very thankful to have him guiding us and leading us, and I think we've given him plenty of opportunities and challenges so far. So the Housing Trust Fund, we continue to work on that. We have had small interest in some rehab projects. Nothing going on quite yet. We're working with Minnesota MHP. They have a technical assistance grant that we were awarded, so they're working with us to help develop some of the policies and documents and procedures to move forward on that. So rehab, we continue to work through our Northeast Small Cities grant. We do have quite a few more single-family projects going. The rental rehab has taken off. I have 2 triplex units that we have bids back on. One, we're trying to get the contract signed on that. Another single-family home we're working on. The 9 units of mixed use downtown. Believe it or not, we're hung up on screens. So apparently window manufacturers don't make their own screens, and the factory that makes the screens was shut down completely due to COVID. So that project is complete pending when we get screens for windows.
Wow.
Which we were told a couple of months, so. Other than that, moving along well. The Brainerd Oaks, Serene Pines, Delmar Estates development is coming along nicely. We did close on 5 more lots here recently in September with the developer. I spoke with him yesterday. He anticipates another property being under contract this Friday, in fact, but he's moving along. We have 7 homes under construction. He's planning on digging foundations on 2 more to get going, and should take him through the winter with his projects, so.
All 7 of those have their foundations dug?
No, not all
He has
7.
2, and he's gonna have 2 more, so we're working on 4 homes through the winter?
Well, there's 1 home substantially complete. There are 2 homes that are rocked, and, I mean, they're getting ready to trim those out. There's 4 on the southwest side of it that are being framed up in Brainerd Oaks. In Serene Pines, there's 1 foundation in, and he plans to dig another one up there. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
I do have one question.
Yes.
How quickly has he been turning these ones that are for sale? I mean, general, you know, average time on market or anything like that?
I guess I don't know that for sure. It seems to be going very quick. He has other developments, and so I assume when he's talking, a lot of times it's generalized, spread out over his other developments, but I know basically he tells me he just can't keep up.
And how about average sale price?
So their homes just are what they are. So I think in Oaks, he's right around that 189 range. That's without a finished basement. So it's kind of like buying anything else. It depends what options you pick. If you have a finished basement, it's so much for that. If you want to upgrade the countertops, it's so much for that. He said occasionally they do like a promotion where they'll offer a free washer and dryer, but he said the price of their homes is kind of the price of their homes. They try and maintain their lowest price they can.
Okay, so they're sub 200.
Yeah, yep,
Kind of
Oaks
in
is
the
all
range.
sub 200. Serene Pines, we're seeing over 200, about a 220 range. And there is one that was complete in Dalmar Estates that was a custom build, so that was a little bit different. Anything else? Thank you.
And Mr. Glenn, do you want to give us an update from Bladek?
There, am I good here? I've got the mic in front of me. Oh, you do? Yeah. Double. All right.
We've got 2 microphones for you, Kelly.
Kelly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Tyler Glenn, Executive Director of the Brainerd Lakes Area Economic Development Corporation. I know that the Community Development Director Chansky forwarded the board some reporting documents that I sent out yesterday. Apologize that they didn't get in the original packet. With the work that we're doing, changing over our reporting systems, we're working pretty hard to drag, move, and bring a lot of information from one system that we've been operating under for quite some time into a new operating system. So what you have in front of you is details from January 1st through April 1st, or just prior basically to the pandemic hitting. Not that that will change anything from a reporting standpoint, but just to give you an indication of the amount of time. I know that this has been not questioned, but just wanted more detail on where we as an organization spend our time, how we spend our time dealing with economic development in the county, how we deal with providing services to the city of Brainerd and throughout the county. So the breakdown, we break it down using emails, correspondence, phone correspondence, meetings. So we provide quite a bit of detail. The system is allowing us to be pretty succinct, I guess you'd say, as we start moving reports in, but also as we start communicating on who we're dealing with, why we're dealing with them, and the length of time that we typically deal with them. So that's the breakdown. I have July, August, September done. Now we're moving into the older months, so we'll get April, May, and June put into the system. I'll deliver those reports out to Community Development Director Chansky and Administrator Bergman as soon as they're finished. But just as a breakdown, what I want to show is the amount of time. So, you know, for the first 3 months, and again, this is an estimate. I don't pull in every single phone call that I make. I don't pull in every single email that I have. I think that would be overwhelming for the organization. I think that would be overwhelming for this group to see. If they want to see it, I'll pull it all in, but I don't know that it would be necessary to do that. But just as a ballpark of spending about 216 hours just working directly for the city of Brainerd through the first 3 months of this year. And that was prior to us obviously getting into the grant, small development or small business relief grants that I assisted the EDA and the city with. So that obviously will come forward in the next set of reports so that we can see the amount of time. I don't know that I will depict that accurately, just because we had a lot of meetings and a lot of time spent on that probably will be something to get deeper into once we can move that information over. But the names that are listed in here, I know that some of the communication that we have with some of the companies that we're dealing with, their names are getting listed in here. That would mean if they are listed in here, obviously this board is seeing that communication. A lot of these, I won't put a lot of companies' names in until the business is either in front of the council and made public or in front of the EDA and made public. because we do not provide details to the community at large for what businesses we are dealing with. So that's just, for this commission's purposes, the information that you have and business names that are listed in this report are projects that are already completed. So that's just a breakdown of the first few months of that. Does anybody have any questions on the reporting, how it's coming? I hope this is what we're looking for. We're providing this type of reporting to the HRA. Feel that it passed through their attorneys as far as the type of reporting that's provided. It's a system that we found that we feel is gonna help us really track our time and track our efforts in a more efficient manner moving forward.
Do you have an idea of what percentage of the Bladex time is that 216 represents for that time period?
President Sinner, that's the next step. That's the next step we're working on to try and break down. We have one staff member that doesn't use this system, so the time that individual spends would not be connected to this. There will be a little bit of disconnect just because that individual's time doesn't need to be tied to this system. So, but that's the other convenient thing about this is that we have a tool to be able to break down total time spent, basically breaking out the total amount of hours that each employee would work in a given week, breaking it down by the amount of time spent in Brainerd.
Perfect, thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Johnson?
Tyler, I like that you're doing this. This is a valuable tool, I think, that can be used going forward over the years to perfect the funding formula for Bladec. You know, and I don't wanna split hairs here, but when you're spending 3 hours on a deed conference call about everything that's going on in the economy, why is that time billed to Brainerd and not Cross Lake or Jenkins?
Technically, it would be. This is, based on some of the conversations that we're having just with deed. Part of that is around those were directed to deeming who was essential and who was not essential. So I was trying to break it out on the requests that were coming from our Brainerd businesses, our manufacturers, the time I was spending with our manufacturers, coordinating their communication back with the state to deeming who would be essential. So that's what that piece is.
Part of your time was billed to Jenkins for the Jenkins manufacturers?
The only Jenkins manufacturer that we have was Pequot Tool, and yes, it was.
Okay.
Yep.
Mr. President?
Mr. Chair,
One moment, Mr. Bevins. Mr. Erickson.
No, take him.
Go ahead, Mr. Bevins.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is also going to be a good, valuable tool for us to see what Bladec's been doing. My question stands: for the last 10 years, how is it that we've paid over $1 million more than any other municipality for Bladec services? And I know it really doesn't matter because the EDA and the council always votes to continue to fund Bladec at the current level, but I will never support funding Bladec until I can understand why we've paid so much more money than any other municipality to fund Bladec. I just don't understand that. I don't understand what we've gotten that's worth $1 million more. Thank you. And it's just a comment, not a question.
And I think that's the purpose of this whole new reporting system, is to help break that out and justify it, so. Mr. Erickson?
My question, Tyler, was how much time do you spend putting the report together? Is it an easy thing to do? Are you doing this a half an hour a day or an hour a day? Just how do you report this?
Excellent question, thank you for that. There is, now that we're transferring our systems over, this has taken quite a bit of time. And we knew that going into it, that we needed a better reporting system. So the transfer of information has taken quite a bit of time moving forward. But now the way that I set this up is that on a weekly basis, I spend no more than an hour putting in the time and the details of my week into each system. So for the city of Brainerd, I would spend no more than an hour a week putting in the information or the contact that I have had during that given week. So now that we have the system designed the way that we want it to be designed and the way that we can report this, we have greatly reduced the amount of time that it takes to do this.
But that's an hour a week, you're saying, for Brainerd, but is that for the other?
I
entity?
spend probably half of that time for the reporting that we do for the HRA. And same probably, I mean, all in for all of the communities that we support, it's a 2 to 3 hour a week process.
To put this information in?
Correct.
So you're doing it as the day goes, or are you doing it at the end of the day, or?
I summarize my week. Fridays typically, Friday afternoon, I'm typically in the office by myself. This is when I do this. I put this information all in at the end of the week.
So you
It's
go-
the only way to manage this, honestly, Wayne.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any further comments for Bladick, Tyler? Okay, moving on to agenda item 10, old business.
President, sir. I do want to, would you like me to provide an update just on the CARES Act?
I think so.
Okay, thank you. So the reports were sent out to the city administrators from County Administrator Hool on, I believe it was sent out at the end of last week or the first, or maybe it was, I'm not sure what day it was. I think it was Monday. So we have broken down, we have finished phase 1 of the CARES Act grant application process for both small business relief grants and for nonprofits. And a summary was sent the nonprofit group met on October 1st. And so then the information, we compiled the information on Friday for the county. Reports were sent out to all the city administrators and or city clerks that their communities provided funding into the pooling program for the grants. And I have a breakdown here. So we initially had $3 million that was provided for small business relief grants from the county, and then an additional contributions of $665,000 was committed from our other communities throughout Crow Wing County. And then we had $1 million that was assigned for nonprofits, with an additional $150,000 that came to nonprofits from the other communities in the county. Therefore, that we had $3,665,000 for nonprofit grants. That dollar amount is going to grow. We have a few more communities that will be pushing more money into it, which is a good thing certainly. And $1,150,000 for the nonprofit grants. In total, preliminary approval of 182 applications for the for-profit companies, with a total of $1,760,173. The nonprofits approved 63, or preliminarily approved 63 applications totaling $589,829. So what that means is that as of today, after this meeting, we have a county budget meeting that I will be attending to make some determinations on how the remaining funds will be pushed out to try and get rid of the remaining portion of those dollars. As of today, we have $2,464,998 that's remaining in our combined buckets for grants for small business relief and for nonprofits.
Can you repeat that number? 2 million?
$2,464,998. There was also a breakdown, I know that council received this, there was a breakdown of the funds that were distributed to, or that have been preliminarily approved for Brainerd businesses, and then also the applications that were denied. I can tell you that the applications that were denied coincide with the same applications that were denied when we went through the small business relief grants for the city of Brainerd. We included any business, so the approval boiled down to the small business relief grants. Those approvals were for businesses that were at any point shut down by one of the executive orders. And as of today, we have 89 executive orders in the state of Minnesota. So if a business was shut down by any executive order, their applications were preliminarily approved. Today at the county board meeting, they will be ratifying those approvals, and then we'll be communicating to those companies that have received grants in the first round. They'll be going out, those notifications should be going out tomorrow. And then those businesses will have to provide an expense breakdown and then sign an authorization form indicating that everything that they provide to the county is accurate, and therefore they would be held accountable if those expenses were audited and they were not able to provide details of receipts for that. They would have to then turn around and repay the county for that portion. So the next steps will be determined today by the county. There's a few things that are on the table. At this point, I'm not at liberty to tell, to identify what those are, because the county board needs to make a determination of how they move these things forward. But some of the conversations that we've had at council, increasing the employee count, opening up a second round, those are all things that are on the table that will be decided by the county today. So if anybody has any questions regarding this, I'd be happy to take them. Like I said, I can only say so much, so, yes.
So, I mean, I got an email, it's 66 businesses in Brainerd approved, preliminarily approved for $647,000 of funding. And there's 28 that weren't shut down or didn't meet the qualifications for various reasons. Where you're going with the next round, does it look like those 28 businesses in Brainerd weren't approved may be eligible with the future considerations of this remaining $2 million that needs to be spent by December?
It's entirely possible. I would say that some of them will get pulled in. I know that increasing the employee count will help at least a couple of them, so that will be that will be certainly a good thing there. The restrictions the restrictions are what they are at this point. If you haven't been shut down by an executive order, you're not going to be eligible. But I will say that what we have done in the last 10 days is we've cross-referenced the chamber's membership list along with the list of those businesses that have applied for those grants. We're creating a postcard, for lack of a better term, a flyer, but we're creating a postcard, and we're going to be going to these businesses personally. Bruce Buxton has offered to help us go door to door, because we think that there's a lot of businesses in our community, especially in the city of Brainerd, that didn't apply for one reason or another. Maybe they didn't know about it, whatever the case may be, but we feel that we have to take the next steps, and if it is going door to door, we're going to do that. The businesses that were denied, you'll get a full list of all of those, so you'll be able to see which businesses were denied. But the reason they were denied is because at this point they just didn't meet the criteria. But we will pull, if they increase the employee count, we will pull in a few of those.
And then one more question. There's $2 million, give or take, however much, that hasn't or was not going to be allocated after today's county meeting. And we have the county has till December 1st to spend that. If not, it goes back to the federal government. In my opinion, it's more important that that money goes to anybody in Crow Wing County before it goes to Washington, D.C. Is the county talking about contingency plans of funding larger organizations that were affected? Like if there's any money left over, just transfer it to the school districts, or, what, is there a plan in place to make sure that this money stays locally, even if it doesn't get out to just small businesses?
Excellent question, and as two of the commissioners have said to me, we need to throw everything at the board and see what sticks. So there are options. They've heard from the school districts. We've talked with our 3 largest resorts. We've talked to our hospitals. There's a lot of businesses that, again, will get pulled in, I think, to utilize some of these funding. They're talking about some of the organizations that provided free and reduced daycare to our critical sector workers. That's another thing that's going to be certainly on the table today, but that was the YMCA and some of the school districts.
I'm a big supporter of the YMCA.
Yes, yeah, and so that is something, personally, that I put on the table for them. I think these are things that need to be considered, and just because I had heard from the YMCA that was certainly a piece that they would like to see covered. So I think everything's on the table. They don't want to send the money back. We don't want them sending the money back. That's part of the reason for, if we get into a round 2 of these applications, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the businesses that need or that are eligible for this money get this money.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yes.
I have one other question that's somewhat related, but somewhat unrelated to that, and that is the city grants that we did. And there was a follow-up reporting required of all of those businesses. Do we have a report on that?
No, Mr. Chair, I can speak to that. We're working on that. At this point, we've received about half of them. One of the things I know Administrator Bergman has spoken with Administrator Hool is looking at to help also rein those in and get those in. A couple of them came in without the documentation, how they expended. They submitted the report form, not documentation, so we have to go back and get them to documentation. But also, Administrator Bergman has talked to Administrator Hool about if there are any crossovers about not cutting the checks for the county's grant until we have the documentation. So kind of holding that documentation before they get the check for the county's grant to again help incentivize in getting those reports back. Once we have those reports, we'll be providing them to the EDA. From so far, from what we've gotten, it appears people have spent it mostly within guidelines that was set. Well, they have spent within the guidelines that was set by the EDA. The question we have, and I know Connie, myself, and Jennifer are working through right now, is whether or not the expenditures that they had, as approved by the EDA, fall under the CARES Act guidelines. Because the CARES Act guidelines hadn't come out at the time the EDA gave their grant. So that's what we're trying to determine right now, to determine how much can be reimbursed from that 113.5.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just add a little bit to that, I think when the decision was made by the EDA, well, the council and the EDA to look at that $113,000, as David mentioned, we didn't know what the CARES Act guidance was at that time. And one of the things that we had discussed was having them submit their invoices to us, and then we would reimburse them for their actual costs. The decision at that time was made to not do that. These businesses were hurting. And so the decision was made to get that money out to these businesses as quickly as we possibly could. We were hoping that we would get reimbursed for that $113,000 with the CARES Act funds. And as David mentioned, I think we're working towards that. But also, I would say that those economic development funds really, really helped our small businesses at the time when they really needed it. So again, we hope that we can position ourselves to reimburse ourselves with CARES Act funds, but there is the risk that we won't be able to do that with 100% of the funds. The other thing that I would add too is the council authorized us to work with Clifton Larson Allen, who is our auditor. So pretty much everything that we're doing with CARES Act funds, we're running by a team at Clifton Larson Allen to make sure that we are doing what we should be doing according to the federal guidelines. Working with federal funds, as the HRA can attest to, is never easy. So we're just really doing our best to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's.
Thank you, Mr. Chansky.
Can I follow up on
Yes.
your question, Jerry? Are we, the businesses who haven't returned their forms, are we communicating to them what is an allowable expense? Like, do they know that payroll and occupancy and certain items are allowed under the CARES Act, or are they just clueless?
So most of these businesses likely already spent their money back before CARES Act was even released.
But they've had occupancy costs. Do they know that they could just write their occupancy costs down and that satisfies the need?
We can work on that.
But they also need to provide the documentation.
But they write a lease and 6 months rent and it's done and we have the documentation we need. I think that would just be easiest for everybody instead of them tracking down 5-month-old receipts for plastic gloves.
It's a great suggestion. Thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other comments? Any other questions for Vladek? Now we can move forward to agenda number 10, old business on the 2021 budget and shared services agreements. Mr. Chansky, you want to lead that?
If I can just kick that off, Mr. President. So So on October 6th, the EDA voted to send your 2021 levy request to the city council. That amount was the maximum amount allowed by state statute at $113,789. During the September 21st council meeting, the council did approve that. Also on October 6th, the EDA directed staff to bring back the discussion. You approved your preliminary levy. We want to talk about the actual nuts and bolts of the budget, so that's what this item is for. As we did last month, Finance Director Hillman did fill in the preliminary expenditure amounts for 2021 based off of the amounts for 2020. The primary expenditures to the EDA are the two professional services contracts, one with the city of Brainerd, the other with the Brainerd Lakes Area Economic Development Corporation. For 2020, the shared service agreement with the city was for $32,500, and with Bladec was $78,500. I also did provide the shared services agreements with the EDA and the city as well. In my mind, the budget and those shared service agreements kind of go hand in hand because they inform each other. Either the budget is what sets the shared services agreements, or you can go vice versa based on what you want in the shared services agreements is kind of what sets the budget. So I thought those two things going hand in hand. The EDA board does not need to formally set their budget today. However, it should be set no later than your December 10 meeting.
Okay, and the Bladec number is already locked in, correct?
In 2019 there was a motion to fund Bladec at $78,500 for the years 2020, 2021, and 2022. So that motion has been made. It is not unchangeable.
Okay, and so the amount with the city is up for discussion, as are the legal numbers, strategic planning dollars, and the memberships, correct?
Correct.
All other numbers are up for discussion.
And the Bladec number could be up for discussion if the ED want to. You just have to create a new motion to amend your previous motion. If you want. I'm just putting that out there that Bladec has been voted on. However, it's not if EDA is feeling another direction. The point is you don't have to re-vote on Bladec.
Thank you. One question I do have is, as we continue our work with the Anderson Brothers project, how much more legal work will we need as that moves into 2021?
So,
and do we need to add additional dollars into that?
Mr. Chair, actually, we received a $10,000 deposit from Anderson Brothers to pay for those legal expenses, to pay for like Baker Tilly or Kennedy and Graven for drafting the business subsidy agreement and those kind of things. So I don't necessarily see the legal municipal advisors, that $4,000 that's preliminary in the budget, I don't see that being affected by Anderson Brothers, as they're paying for the services to get their project up and going.
And where do those dollars from Anderson show up at this time?
Actually, in the financial report, if we look at Fund 295, I do believe it was page 2 of the financial report. It has the balance sheet, and we see deposits payable of $10,000. So as of September 30th, we had not incurred any expenses at this point for that deposit.
Okay.
Mr. President, if I may, that $4,000 that we have in there for legal municipal advisors, that's generally we use that, for example, when we were working on the small business relief grant, and we had questions, and we were working with Baker Tilly and others about that. That's where we draw out of that.
And we also drew out of that fund when Baker Tilly was working through like TIF districts, before we had a developer that was coming through, when they came and did a presentation to the EDA. That's where that budget line item would be used for.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, thoughts?
And then also, Mr. President, the $5,000 on that, we did budget $5,000 in 2020. From discussion in 2019 was that the EDA was interested in doing some kind of strategic planning in 2020. part of that going off of, again, the intended discussion with the city council. Obviously, because of COVID, that changed things. That's another reason why we moved that 5,000 into 2021 as well. If that's, it seemed like that was a priority for the EDA. We thought, if that's still a priority, kind of putting that again in there for 2021, the idea of potentially doing some kind of strategic planning. Otherwise, again, marketing and training events would also be.
And do we have to break that out between those various categories, or can it just be in one and doesn't really matter, does it?
Correct. Basically, there's $5,500 for miscellaneous strategic planning, marketing, and training events. So it's all lumped in together, that's what it's earmarked for. So I don't think we need to break it down into, we're gonna spend this much on strategic planning, et cetera.
Okay, and then on memberships, we do have in the packet a request from the Initiative Foundation as well.
Correct.
For their 2021 funding or dollars, and which is the same as it's been the last several years. I'm not sure how many years it goes back. Would it make sense to get that approved now and then lock that in as a budget item?
I think the Initiative Foundation would appreciate that, then we can respond to them knowing that this has been approved, and we can send a letter to them so they can plan their budget as well.
So we have a motion to approve the Initiative Foundation's request for $5,350. Do we have a second?
Second. Hank?
Second by Mink. Any further questions, comments? Let's do a roll call vote.
Bevins,
Yes.
Erickson,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Hirsch,
Yes.
Mank,
Yes.
O'Day,
Yes.
and Center.
Yes. Motion approved. So that will then become the membership's budget line item as well, unless we feel like we need to add any additional dollars there for any other organization. What about, we had a presentation today from our Destination Downtown Coalition. I don't know that that would be a membership, but if we wanted to do any dollars to them in our budget without a firm commitment today, we could add additional dollars under memberships for something like that, whether it's that or something like it. I think that would be maybe appropriate as well. Or, like I said, any other group that's working in the downtown area, so to speak.
I think Marie can speak to that.
Yeah, I think that would be a valuable contribution, just given that that group is doing a lot with not only bringing more folks to downtown through events and activities, but we are focused on doing economic development activities. Brendan mentioned working with the Entrepreneur Fund. We're hoping to do additional things like that to educate downtown business owners. So I don't know what dollar amount would be appropriate, but I definitely think it would be beneficial to have some funding in there for that.
Yes, I would like to put something out there. I guess I would like to sit down with the coalition, and based on Brenda's comments and then maybe some feedback from Marie, just in what kind of assistance they need from a social media standpoint, but also from some event coordination, and if it would be appropriate to have the discussion with them to find out how Bladek can assist them with those services, some of our expertise, some of our manpower, if you will, to assist some of their events, and then in December come back if there is an ask, if we can't assist them with the things that they need. If the funds that they're looking for are to provide, to get the assistance of social media, to get the assistance of event coordination, I would like to make that offer, that we meet with them first and see what we can provide in regards to staffing assistance to them.
President.
And one second. And what I'm suggesting only is that we earmark some budget dollars available for such type of a membership, so to speak. It doesn't have to be spent. It's not a firm commitment. It's only an allocation of budget dollars to that, something into that arena.
I don't know what membership I don't know, I haven't been approached for membership in the group yet. I don't know what membership is. We can't do a contribution. It has to be like a membership. I believe that's where the legal standing would be. So, I would say that we should budget somewheres in $250 or thereabouts for additional memberships, not necessarily earmarking it for any particular one until we get an ask.
Yep.
Is that acceptable for a motion?
I mean, I think anything's acceptable for a motion. I want to have discussion about whether, as we go through these, and we can go through them one by one, but it'd be nice to get this budget a little further along. We don't have to have it all locked in by this meeting, but it'd be nice to have it a little further along.
Okay, that's just a suggestion, okay? It
So
won't be
you'd
a
like to
motion.
add $250 there?
I'm suggesting 250, but that can be amended by anybody if
Right.
they want to go higher or lower.
Mr. President, I would like to see it, I agree with Ed, but I'd like to see it at 1,000 temporarily. Again, we don't have to spend it all, but at least dollars to work with.
What's the best way to move this forward? Should we accept these as motions, as amendments, or?
You're the chair.
I'm not all up on all of them. Or do we wait and do we have discussion and then approve the whole budget?
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And maybe if I could, I think one of the things that staff is really looking for right now is just some guidance and some direction. And our plan is to bring back a budget for you to consider, and these discussions are really helpful in helping us know where to allocate funds. So I don't know that it would necessarily need a motion, but this discussion will put something together and bring back to you to approve in totality.
Okay.
And I'm concerned, I want to talk to our legal counsel as well, just make sure that we have the correct terminology when we're being membership, like we can't join the chamber, for example. The city cannot join the chamber. So what does it mean for the EDA to provide a contribution or a membership to the Downtown Coalition? Is that more of that we're supporting an event that they're hosting? So just to kind of get the right terminology, it might not be a membership, it might be supporting of an event, and a budget is our best laid out plan at this point. I think right now the EDA has $8,189 of the maximum levy allowed by state statute to do what they see fit. And it might be something that we don't have a balanced budget, we just leave it as a surplus, or, if you want a balanced budget, that's up to the board, I guess, how they feel. And maybe the council members can speak to how they would feel if the budget for the EDA was a surplus.
And it doesn't, we're gonna end up likely with a surplus this year.
Correct.
Because we haven't spent some of the budgeted items as well. And
we ended up with the surplus in 2019.
We also have 4,000 slotted right now for legal and municipal advisors, which may or may not be the right figure.
Mm-hmm.
We still have another 5,000 for the strategic planning and marketing in there.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those numbers could be adjusted.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Another thing that the HRA has done with their general fund levy dollars has had a line item in there for downtown initiatives, I think is, and Eric and John could speak to it too, that kept it vague enough so that the HRA would be ready to kind of react when there was a request for something. And Gabe, I know you're on the commission, and Eric and John could certainly speak to that.
Mr. Bank?
Question, could, we instead of saying membership, could we call it a discretionary fund? You know, it's kind of a
Miscellaneous special projects.
Miscellaneous special projects.
Miscellaneous
one,
special
but-
projects.
Unallocated?
Unallocated.
An unallocated
Sorry, Gabe.
fund?
Isn't that what a surplus budget is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's essentially putting it nowhere.
yeah.
so like I say, somehow do it, because I know there's legal requirements.
I think, Jerry, I wouldn't want to put it under memberships, because since the Destination Downtown Business Coalition currently is a subcommittee of the Brainerd Lakes Chamber of Commerce, it's not legal for us to join. So I think the membership line item, but if we put it under strategic planning, marketing, training, events, and conferences, great. Put it under professional services, put it under miscellaneous, unallocated, question mark, that's fine. But I would support 250, I'd support 1,000. I would support probably $8,189, but I think we should have Marie go back to her group, figure out a plan of what their goals are next year, what they need funding for, what their funding sources are, and how the EDA can be a part of accomplishing the goals they have set forth for 2021. But that just wasn't made clear by Brenda's presentation today, and we don't really have a clear ask, so I don't know where we would put it in.
Right, and I'm, you know, whether it's something directly to them or another marketing initiative that we do, maybe we should have more dollars in marketing so that we can market our downtown more and do, whether it's radio ads or print ads or something that helps. The other area that I have been thinking about a lot is people recruitment. And from the economic development side of things, I often wonder what comes first, the business or the people. I can tell you right now, I've heard that businesses, and some of these are not in the city, but I think I've heard Klaus Stamping is looking for about 70 workers. I think Lindar Avantech is looking for about 10 or 15. We're looking for about 10 or 15.
Lexington has 25 that they're searching for.
Lexington, 25. The Barrett Pet Foods, I think, has looking for about 10. So how do we get our businesses to grow if the people aren't here? And maybe we need to do some promotion on getting people here. It seems like the housing piece is starting to come. I'm not sure what the availability for rental housing is and some of those things. But I think in that area of marketing, maybe there's something we need to put in there to help drive economic development by getting more people here.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
very timely. So I was at the Visit Brainerd open house last week, and Mary Devine Johnson had recommended looking at some kind of relocation packet, relocation information that we could put together to do exactly what you're talking about. How can we let people know what Brainerd has to offer? And so I just, great minds think alike, so.
Calling Jerry your great mind?
I'm calling Jerry and Mary great minds.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were saying they were or they weren't.
Or-
Too funny. So I'd like to propose we throw another 5,000 instead of doing anything on memberships. Let's throw 10,000 on strategic planning, marketing, training, and let that just be a catch-all for all of those items, whether it be doing a marketing for some event, whether it be marketing for getting people to come and move this way, or something to that effect, or maybe it's strategic planning or something like that. Any other thoughts on that?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make sure, so the DDBC, one of our big priorities is we do want to hire like a coordinator for downtown to help with things like a farmer's market and with marketing. If we put all those dollars into that marketing bucket, would any of that still be available to help with funding some sort of position like that, or would that need to be in a separate line item?
I think, in my opinion, from what I've picked up, we have to be very careful about what we do directly to support the organization. So I don't know that we could provide any funding directly to help support the hiring of a position. Is that fair from what you're understanding?
Yeah, it's,
Well, I think the city or EDA funded the Main Street coordinator partially through the chamber
this,
in previous years.
I think it would just be something we'd want to look into as far as, like how this would work. We would just work with our legal counsel and say, these are some ideas. Are there any issues with it? Or we can definitely, for our next meeting, have some guidelines or whatever. But I think like you're planning on spending all of the funds. What category it's in, we budget based on a fund level. So we allocate it based on line items such as memberships, professional services, all those kind of things, just from a standpoint of helping to track the money. But really we budget on a fund level. So what I'm hearing is the EDA is going to spend at least the amount, that $8,000, plus I hear you're talking possibly about spending some fund balance as well this year, since we're gonna have an increase in fund balance for 2020. We had a little bit for 2019. You can definitely say, okay, we are planning on spending X number of dollars. We don't know exactly how we're spending this. We've got these ideas in our head, but we don't know exactly. I think that is a fine way to adopt a budget at this point. The line items are there just to help us track.
Right.
We don't need to be concerned about putting it all in a miscellaneous and then have it go to professional services, for example, like that would be the downtown street coordinator or whatever. Marketing to me is more advertising than miscellaneous, but because we're just lumping it all in there, we're kind of knowing what we're spending.
And I think to answer Marie's question, if we move that to $10,000, I do think that could possibly, depending on our legal counsel, be money, some of that money could be used to support Destination Downtown.
We could add more money to the legal municipal advisors because we may spend more there. Make that 5, similar to what we budgeted for 2020. Throw another 1,000 or 2,000 in miscellaneous and another 5,000 in marketing, strategic planning, training, etc. And we're pretty much there.
I accept that motion.
We will let staff work that up best that they can and bring it back for our next meeting, and we'll adopt it at a budget at December 1st.
And thank you, this guidance helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Good, okay. New business.
So, Mr. President, if we can, before we go on, just wondering if are there any comments on the shared services agreement between City and Bladett? Thought they're good to go for 2021 as well, or want to have further discussion on that at a later date?
I believe last October, we made a motion to accept proposed funding for Bladett for $78,500 for the years 20, 21, and 22. I would hate to see us renege on what we said we'd do, because they planned on it. We have it in our budget, so I'd like to leave it as is.
Mr. President, if I clarify, so that is correct. The shared services, the agreement, however, for what Bladett and the city will be doing with the funds allocated was only for 1 year. So the shared services agreement is where the EDA has the opportunity to tell the city and Bladett exactly what you all want the city and Bladett to do with the money given. So that's one reason I provided that. So the plan is still to provide $78,500 to Bladett. The shared services agreement is an opportunity to tell Bladett exactly how you want it spent, and same with the city. So if you want to take more time to look at those, we can discuss them at a later date. If you don't have any comments.
As far as Bladett, I would recommend that city staff, you, Mr. Chansky, and Bergman and Hillman look at that agreement and see what recommended changes you would like to see there, the Bladett agreement. And also, come back with a recommendation for the city portion as well, if you suggest any changes or changes in funding. Otherwise, I would propose to keep them the same.
I would like to discuss that at the next meeting.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to give us all time. I only have about 10 minutes, and I have to get out of here, so I think that's a pretty lengthy discussion.
Yep.
And it's important, so.
Okay. Any new business? Okay, informational, Mr. Chansky, you gonna give us an update on the Anderson Brothers project?
Yep. So just a small update. You all kind of got that in the emails that were going out. Obviously, originally the plan was to have Anderson Brothers on this agenda to start making the approvals on the purchase and development agreement and the subsidy. However, Anderson Brothers, we've been working with our counselors with Baker Tilly as well as Kennedy and Graven. A PDA has been drafted and is preliminarily approved by city staff and is in the hands of Anderson Brothers. They just requested more time to review it. They have some questions, get their legal counsel to review it. We were kind of working on the original timeline in which they had given us. They've since said, you know, we don't need to close by the end of October. So at this time, the plan is we may be asking the EDA for a special meeting in November to approve those items. There's a couple items that the city council also needs to approve still. Originally, those were planned to go before the council this past Monday in preparation of the hearings today by the EDA, but because the EDA didn't hold those today, the council also decided to put those off so they're closer together and there's not a big gap between council approving things and EDA approving things as well. So there's more to come on Anderson Brothers. They are still fully moving forward with that. Just wanted more time to fully review the PDA, so they are fully aware of what's in it, what the requirements are of them, and that they're on board with that. The second thing is informational, regards the zoning code update. In August, a RFP, request for proposal, went out for a consultant to guide the city through doing a comprehensive update of the city's zoning code. The last major update was done in 2008. And we're really looking at this point, what's really come to light ever since I even came to the city is one of the first things that were mentioned to me when I started with the city is issues with our zoning code. Over the last 20, 30 years that the city has had it, it was adopted as kind of a cookie cutter code, and then over the last 30 years has just been updated here and there as we see updates, which makes it very clunky to work with, and in a lot of ways, in certain areas actually will contradict itself or is just unclear. So the goal is to make a zoning code that is easy to administer and also easily understood by the end user as well, and is development friendly. So we're going through, we just started that process, actually we had our kickoff yesterday with our zoning consultants. Throughout the month of September, the Planning Commission reviewed applications or responses to the RFP that received. The city received 8. They interviewed 6 of the consultants, made the recommendation to the city council, which the council approved, to contract with Swanson Haskamp Consulting. The consultants were actually here yesterday for a kickoff. We spent about 6 hours with them yesterday, kind of going over expectations about the community, and then went on about a 3-hour tour of the community as well with them. Part of that process, they will be sitting down at some point, probably beginning of the year, with the EDA and getting feedback from the EDA what things are important. Because the zoning code does have direct impact on economic development, it's important that they also hear from the EDA on what your goals are and what you see and what's important when we look at zoning. Because the goal is with this update is that this is really what's going to impact the city's development the next 20 to 30 years. What we do with this code. My goal, personal goal, is to have an implementation date for this new code of January 1, 2020. So it's about a year-long process, so you'll be hearing more about that to come.
Okay. Any other informational updates? Agenda item number 13. Any commissioner comments, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to welcome Eric Charpentier. Welcome to the EDA meeting. Now, O'Day's got to run, otherwise I'd ask you to come up and introduce yourself to us, but let's do that at the next meeting.
Quick comment. With $2 million plus sitting in the pool that is unallocated, is there any way to utilize that for marketing for employee hiring? You know, that's an economic shortfall we're having right now.
Great question. I will bring that up in 10 minutes when I'm over there.
Yeah, let's spend $500,000 advertising to relocate people here.
I'd
I'd love to help you spend it.
Just one quick question, how would that be related to COVID? Just as long as we can somehow, those CARES dollars has to be.
People are trying to get out of the dirty, disease-ridden cities.
Well,
Hey, we can be creative. Not a strong suit of mine, but hey.
Gray is
you
great.
know, kind of on that same line, I've got a son-in-law who's in the real estate business. Right now, he's panicking. He can't find enough houses to sell. He's got people moving from the cities, sight unseen. Yes, pictures, but sight unseen, buying homes up here to get out of there. So that is a
Real deal.
real deal. Because of the COVID.
Provide a full update when they are done today.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second. Roll call.
Yes, we do.
Bevins?
Bevin?
Left.
Yeah.
Erickson?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Kirsch? Mink?
Yes.
O'Day?
Yes.
Center?
Yes. Motion carried.